welcome back to my channel, Hexes and Horrors. My name is Ashley, and in today's video, we're talking about a one-day itinerary for Sleepy Hollow, New York. So I recently posted a video on Salem versus Sleepy Hollow and how the two are so different and how people often get their hopes up when they visit Sleepy Hollow because they expect it to be just like Salem, Massachusetts, and the two places could not be any more different. So today we're talking about just one day in Sleepy Hollow, sort of a sample itinerary, what I would do there in a day. Like anything, people have differing opinions. Maybe there's something on this itinerary that you don't really care to see, that you're not interested in, and you can just sub it out for something else. So that being said, this is just in my own opinion what a really fun one-day trip to Sleepy Hollow would entail. And if you've never been to Sleepy Hollow and you're not sure what to expect, please go back and watch that video that I was just talking about, Salem versus Sleepy Hollow, things to do in Sleepy Hollow. It is one video and I go through the differences between the two towns, what kinds of things there are to do in Sleepy Hollow, and basically what you should expect if you're visiting. So watch that first and then come back here so you know what to expect before we get into a one-day itinerary. All right, so let's get into it. You have arrived in Sleepy Hollow. Now, first things first, I recommend getting brunch somewhere if you haven't eaten already. And a really great spot to do that is Sweetgrass Grill right on Main Street in Tarrytown. Now, Tarrytown and Sleepy Hollow are right next to each other and you can walk between the towns. They're both fairly small. There are a lot of great shops and restaurants there, and one of my favorites is Sweetgrass Grill. They do offer brunch on Saturdays and Sundays, which tends to be when most people are visiting Sleepy Hollow. So if you're there on a weekend, you can grab brunch at Sweetgrass Grill. They cater to vegetarians, vegans, neither of those, so they serve everything. Of course, if you already ate for the day, then skip this. After you get something to eat, I highly recommend just walking up and down Main Street in Tarrytown, right there where Sweetgrass Grill is, and looking at all the different decorations and shop windows along that street. Then you're gonna head up from Main Street towards North Broadway. You'll see an intersection and there is a Greek restaurant on the left-hand corner, and then you're gonna turn left there and you're gonna be walking north on North Broadway. You're going to pass by the post office, some funeral homes, the well-known restaurant Horse Feathers, which we'll come back to later. You'll pass by Patriots Park and you'll get to see all the scarecrows lined up along the fence, and then you'll come to the Sleepy Hollow sign. So this is at Sleepy Hollow High School, and it's the infamous sign that everyone takes pictures in front of or takes pictures of, so you might want to do that while you're walking by. Then you're going to keep on going. The next thing you're going to pass is the Beekman Ave Clock Tower right in the center of Sleepy Hollow. It's going to be all decorated for Halloween. It's going to look really cool. Another great spot for a picture if you want to take one there. And then you have Beekman Ave behind the clock tower. Now, this might be another place you might want to just stroll up and down and look at the shop windows, the different decorations, or you can come back later when you have more time. So if you're not going down Beekman Ave, you're going to keep going straight. You're still going down North Broadway, you're strolling along, feeling that fall crisp air. You're gonna pass through their little pumpkin stand that they have on the left. Then you're gonna come to Phillipsburg Manor. You're gonna keep going. You're gonna come to the Headless Horseman statue. I know this is a lot, but I'm just taking you along on the stroll. You won't miss the statue because there will probably be a lot of people standing out in front of it, taking pictures and whatnot. So you can check out that. It's a giant iron statue of the Headless Horseman. And then you'll see kind of right beyond that is the Old Dutch Church Cemetery. So this is where we're heading first. This is not the Sleepy Hollow Cemetery, but it is connected to it. So you can head right into those gates that you see just beyond the statue, and you'll be in the Old Dutch Church Cemetery parking lot. There will be some vendors and things set up outside. You might want to browse around, maybe get something, and then you're going to start walking in. Now on the left is going to be the Old Dutch Church Cemetery and the Old Dutch Church. Then just beyond that is the Sleepy Hollow Cemetery. There's no fence or anything separating the two. They're just connected, but they are not the same cemeteries. There is a lot to see in both, so I recommend going into the Old Dutch Church Cemetery first. You can see Hulda of Bohemia's grave here. She was a healer at one point in time. She has a really cool story, and she is buried in that cemetery. There's also a great story behind that if you're into looking up the history on it. Then you can see the gravestones of people that the characters in the legend of Sleepy Hollow were based off of. There are some great daytime cemetery tours. I'm not sure what they'll have going on this year specifically, but definitely check online because tours tend to change and they come up with different ones and different companies offer tours. But there is a great one I took last year with my friend Michelle. She is Sleepy Hollow Spellbound on Instagram. I'm not sure if she's on TikTok, but she has some great Sleepy Hollow content, and she was giving tours last year for a certain entity. I don't remember which one. I took the tour. It was amazing. She's so knowledgeable about the town. So if they're offering that again, then I would highly recommend taking her tour. After you've checked out the Old Dutch Church Cemetery, you're going to keep on walking and you're going to check out the Sleepy Hollow Cemetery. There are signs guiding you towards Washington Irving's grave, which is what most people go there to see during October. There's also a Headless Horseman sign that gives a little bit of history on the legend. That's fun to see. Now, Irving's grave is very crowded on weekends in October. Everyone wants to go see his grave. So just be mindful and make sure that you're not blocking anyone's view. Make sure you're not standing there for too long because other people want to be able to get in and, have a view of it. It is a family plot. It's the Irving family plot. And his tombstone is in maybe like the third or so row on the right-hand side. It will be marked with something. They always mark it with a wreath or some kind of emblem related to either the season or holiday that's coming up. So you will be able to see it, but you obviously cannot step inside the plot. Once you've checked out his grave, there are also a ton of other things to see in this cemetery. It is huge. There's the Headless Horseman Bridge, which is a little ways down from where you entered. There is Elizabeth Arden's grave, Rockefeller's grave. So many famous people are buried here. And so many really cool tombstones to see while you're walking around. So if you are into cemeteries, if you're a taphophile, if you like visiting famous graves, this is a great spot. After you've taken a look around Sleepy Hollow Cemetery, I recommend getting an Uber and hopping on over to Lyndhurst Mansion. If you drove there, obviously you can just take your car, but if you didn't drive, then grab an Uber. You're gonna head back into Tarrytown, and it is technically walkable. I personally would not walk from the cemetery to Lyndhurst. I think it's just too long of a distance for me personally, and you're walking along main and busy roads. That's not really my thing, so I would take an Uber. If you're up for walking, you can check out the distance and see if you want to do that instead. But you're going to go over to Lyndhurst. This is a great place to spend an afternoon, but you don't have an afternoon because you only have one day in Sleepy Hollow. But you need to get a ticket in advance, whether or not you're going inside the mansion. So even if you're just exploring the grounds, you still do need a ticket. So Lyndhurst is a former mansion that is now open to the public. They do run tours year-round. They have a beautiful flower garden, rose garden actually, but in the fall I don't think you'll be able to really see anything blooming there. It is a great place to go and have a picnic in the afternoon. There's so much space to check out and explore. I highly recommend touring inside the mansion. They change up their tours from year to year. They used to have some events running like Jay Ghoul's, I don't know, cocktails, or I forget what it was called, but it was something spooky themed, let's say. They didn't really have anything like that last year, but they did have a fall mansion walk, I guess you could call it, where you could go in and see different decorations that people have created. So they do different things. So definitely check online and see what kind of tours they're running in October, and if you're interested in taking any. If not, then you can just check out the mansion from the outside, explore the grounds, and then head out. After Lyndhurst Mansion, I recommend hopping back in your Uber and heading on over to the Armour Steiner house, aka the Octagon house. This one is the most beautiful house I think I've seen. And I say that about every like Victorian style wraparound porch house that I see, but this one is really stunning. It is an octagon shape. There is a full 360 wraparound porch. They as well offer tours, I think in spring, summer, fall, maybe not in winter, but during October, they definitely have, again, some spooky themed tours. They do like a mystery tour in October. So I would take that. You'll get to check out the house, see the architecture, and I don't know what that tour entails because I haven't taken it, but something mysterious. So that one sounds fun. After the Armour Steiner house, it might be time for lunch at this point. The restaurant I recommend, that's only a 7-minute drive from the Armour Steiner house, is Goosefeather. Goosefeather has fusion cuisine. They have a lot of different types of food. It's really delicious. I had the best pad thai noodles I've ever had there, and it's another former mansion, so of course it's beautiful. One of the best parts is the sprawling lawn they have out front. They've got chairs, couches out there. Sometimes there's a bar outside, so you can just enjoy a drink on the lawn and hang out. Then at the inside bar, one of the coolest things I've ever seen, and I still think about it to this day, they gave me my check inside a vintage book. So the vintage book was the checkbook. I nearly passed on when I saw this because it was such a whimsical little dreamlike moment. It was so cute. But if you don't want to eat there and you don't want to get your check in a vintage book, there are a slew of different restaurants back in Tarrytown and Sleepy Hollow, again along Main Street, Beekman Ave, and then we have Horse Feathers. Horse Feathers is along North Broadway. You will pass it if you're walking from Main Street to the cemetery, like I mentioned earlier. Horse Feathers is very well known. I've eaten there twice, I would say. My parents know of the place. It's been there for a really long time. There's always a line out the door in October. And Horse Feathers is owned by Julia, is her name, and she is another great content creator. She is Sleepy Hollow Country on Instagram and TikTok. So I would definitely recommend, if you have the time, to check out Horse Feathers and maybe grab a meal. Again, it's a long wait usually, especially on weekends, so I don't know if you'll have the time, but if you do, definitely get in there. They have a great atmosphere. It's always decorated really cool, even when it's not October, and they really do it up for the Halloween season. The staff is super friendly and helpful, and they'll be in costume if it's close to Halloween, so Horse Feathers is another great recommendation. Otherwise, check out the restaurants along Main Street and Beekman Ave. Like I said, you can't go wrong anywhere. There's great food in Sleepy Hollow and Tarrytown. After lunch, I recommend getting back on over towards the Sleepy Hollow Cemetery to take a cemetery tour. Now, I did mention daytime tours earlier. These are the evening cemetery tours, and I recommend taking one in the early evening because I want you to cap off your night at the very end with the Great Jack-o'-lantern Blaze. So you want to make sure that you're taking a tour that still allots you time to get to the Blaze, because the Blaze is outside of Sleepy Hollow. But we'll get to that in a few minutes. Now, if you don't want to take a cemetery tour and that's not your thing, you can check out Hearts of the Hollow, which is also outside of Sleepy Hollow and will require driving. You can check out Hulda's Night. Both are live performances put on. I have not been to either, but I have heard great things about both of them. But if you do want to take a cemetery tour, like a lot of the other tours, they kind of switch it up from year to year. They always have a lantern-led cemetery tour at night, but like I said, you want to do the Blaze, so you want to take an earlier tour. You might be able to still do a lantern tour and get over to the Blaze, but there are other ones available. So definitely check out their tours when they drop online, usually like late September, I would say, because they sell out really fast for weekends. I have missed the tour I wanted to take 2 years in a row now because I just didn't get tickets fast enough. They also used to do some cool things like live readings of Frankenstein or Edgar Allan Poe inside the church at Sleepy Hollow Cemetery. I didn't see that on the schedule last year, but if they offer something like that, highly recommend that as well. It was super fun, really cool atmosphere. You know, you're in a dark church, you're listening to a live reading. I can't remember who did the reading. I don't know if it was Jonathan, the one who does a lot of the reenactments in Sleepy Hollow. It might have been him. I had done a Frankenstein live reading, listened to, not done myself, and that was a really cool event to go to. So, you know, check out what they have going on online. Cemetery tour, maybe a live reading, maybe something else in there, depending on your preference, and then make sure you have time for the Blaze. Okay, Blaze is our last stop, the Great Jack-o'-lantern Blaze. It is in Croton-on-Hudson, which is about a 20-minute drive north of Sleepy Hollow. They also sell out very quickly, especially for weekends. So you want to get your tickets as early as you can. I think that is the perfect way to end a day in Sleepy Hollow, is heading over to the Blaze and checking out all the cool pumpkin creations they have for the year. Some of the ones they have are the same every year, but they always come up with a few different ones. Some of my favorites were a moving carousel with horses on it. They had this giant like walkway for the Legend of Sleepy Hollow, like where the horse was supposed to come running through. They used pumpkins to light the path, and then I don't know what they used, some kind of holographics or lit up something to make it seem like the horse was coming down. It was really fun. So if you don't like any of the things on this itinerary, or they happen to be sold out by the time you go to book your tickets, you'll have to sub in for something else. And there are plenty of other things to do. These are just my recommendations. So in the event that you need some other recs, do check out my Sleepy Hollow travel guide. It is in my bio along with my guides to some other spooky cities. And I really hope this itinerary helps you plan your visit to Sleepy Hollow. Please let me know if this video helped you, if you have any other questions about Sleepy Hollow, and I'll do my best to answer them. Check out my travel guide first because the answer to your questions might be in there. Sleepy Hollow is a super fun place. It is full of history. If you love history, you will definitely love Sleepy Hollow, and I hope you make a visit there this season. Thank you guys so much for watching. If you liked this video, give it a little like, hit subscribe, and I'll see you guys next time. Stay spooky.